which is who's one of the main producers on that one?
Oh,
do you know? You don't have to look it up. I mean, yes, yeah.
I sure
let's
do
look
not.
it up. Let's talk about it.
J.J. Abrams.
Yep.
I should have been able to come up with that one a little bit faster, but he's pretty.
He's good at what he does.
He's very good at what he does. He's been very successful in his career.
Yep.
There's not much that he's done that I was not drawn to.
Yeah, I know.
Interestingly,
that's pretty
profound for someone in his industry and of his level.
Yeah. I wonder as he keeps going though how much that will stay that way, because I'm sure he'll start to want to do something. I don't know. Maybe not. He truly is, though, a new Spielberg. That he really is. Those kinds of directors.
And also, I find that he's very diverse and versatile. Like, it's not like he does the same stuff over and over.
Yeah.
There's
Wait, who are we talking about?
J.J. Abrams.
Yes.
There's so much diversity in the things that he's done. It's really kept me, anyway, captivated by what's he gonna do next, and how's he gonna do it, and
Tell us a little bit about this flick.
So it's a science fiction psychological thriller directed by Dan Trachtenberg.
Trachtenberg, yep, good job.
Interesting. I guess in his directorial debut. Interesting to know. It is the second installment of the Cloverfield franchise. What's the first one?
It's just called Cloverfield, and it's the one that's the found footage one, where it's just all from a shot from a camera.
Have we seen that?
It's super jerky, It's real jerky in terms of those kinds of movies. Yeah. However, it has some fun moments. Yeah, we watched it, but we could watch it again.
Yeah, for sure.
10 Cloverfield Lane to me is a much better film from an artistic standpoint, maybe. And I mean, I'm sure there's people out there right now that are already typing like, "No, excuse me, that you're actually wrong." But for me, 10 Cloverfield Lane was just a much better all-around movie. Like that movie
plot line.
Yeah. So what is the plot line?
Basically, the story of a young woman who, after a car crash, wakes up in an underground bunker. Two men who insist that an event has left the surface of Earth uninhabitable. So it's pretty much the events of what occurs while they're in that bunker.
Okay. Yes.
It was developed from a script titled The Cellar. That feels thrilling too.
That's what it was, for sure. He really took it. He took that approach from like a sound design, like we were talking about last episode, where he's not only looking at it from a score and emotional, like, let me tell you how to feel about these characters. He approached it like, okay, what's the setting now that they're down in this cellar and this. So what he did
kind of like a damp, dark environment.
Yeah.
It's like a converted cellar into a shelter.
Yeah, exactly.
I was brought on board the film really early in the process. I even had the chance to go to New Orleans and visit the set, and I got to walk around Howard's bunker and get a feel for what the physical space felt like, this claustrophobia. My musical imagination just started going into overdrive. Deep, subterranean textures, orchestra clusters, sounds that I thought could represent this really unique physical space that the vast majority of the film takes place in. When I left the set and came back to LA, that's really the question I needed to answer. How would I create those sounds for this unique space, for this unique film?
And so what he did is he had his sound design team go and just start recording sounds of them like taking big chains in like a warehouse kind of sound, where it would sound like that.
Yeah. Kind of echoey, sort of underground, enclosed feeling.
Metal.
Industrial.
Industrial, yes. And they would just be slapping chains together and like giant, the big tin trash cans, They were like doing the lids and all this kind of stuff just to kind of get a feel for what it would sound like in there.
Yeah, the chaos outside of the bunker.
Yeah, before he even wrote the score, that's the way he wanted to approach it. Is let me really capture
what that would feel like, and then what kind of music or sounds can I associate to that, instruments and such.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so, last episode we were talking about his mentor, Elmer Bernstein, always telling him that you should start with one unique sound when you start a film so that it can immediately capture the audience's interest and pique their curiosity.
Yeah.
So there's a video, speaking of his vlog series, I think this one was a little bit more produced. It wasn't necessarily his personal vlogs, probably in promotion of the film. It's just called The Music of 10 Cloverfield Lane, and we'll put it on our YouTube list for you to check out. But it was really cool to see the intensity that he was approaching it and really wanted to grasp what it would be like to be kind of holed up underground.
It was very
cellar.
Creative how he gathered some of those sounds.
Yeah. There's two instruments that we're going to discuss on this particular score that he kind of brings to the forefront.
When you see 10 Cloverfield Lane, the very first sound you hear is the Yayli Tanbur. The tambur is a string instrument from Turkey, and it has a really interesting metallic and yet vocal sound. The musician I work with on this instrument is Malachi Bandy. He has a way of taking unusual instruments, Renaissance instruments, ethnic instruments, and making them very expressive.
As soon as I went back and heard this score, I remember when we saw the movie, those first notes, that
being so
or whatever it is.
Strange, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds so alien, and it's the Yayli Tanbur. Is that how you would say that?
Yayli Tanbur, yeah.
What can you describe that a little bit?
So it almost looks like it says a bowed long neck lute from Turkey, but it kind of looks like a banjo with a long neck a little bit to me. And then, but it comes with a bow like a violin.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, that's what gives it that smooth sound.
Yeah, it's like the frets.
Because it does kind of sound like a guitar, but it's played with a bow. Okay,
very differently. So it has a very haunting, kind of drawn out quality about it.
Again,
almost even droning, I guess, really too.
Yeah, a little bit. You could easily see that played over a drone. Mm-hmm. And again, Turkey, Armenia, those areas, some of the instruments are just so expressive and carry a sorrow with it that is so haunting. For some reason, it's not as negative and brooding. I mean, it's brooding, but it's not as heavy as some things where I'm
dark.
I want to go, slip my wrist or something. It's interesting in terms of I actually want to just hear a little bit more about what that is. What's going on there?
So it says also speaking of the frets, due to the special nature of the instrument, the neck behaves as though it was unfretted, despite the ordinary placement of numerous frets, anywhere from 24 to 34 or more to the octave.
Okay.
So
all right.
The fingers can press down on unfretted parts of the neck to achieve the same effect as stopping the frets. This allows the glissandi and the portamenti. That's what it looks like.
So wait, it has frets, but it doesn't actually have the little... Okay, so people...
So it does have stops, but they're not... I don't think they're as pronounced as...
Okay, all right.
It says it acts like frets.
Right.
But
basically you can... then it sounded like you could put your whole finger on it, almost like you would like a capo on a guitar, and say, this is going to be a fret now.
Yeah.
And you can play it that way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
You can...
Well, the guy that played it on this score, Malachi Bandy, there was another video I was watching, or maybe it was an article. I think it was an article I was reading. And he was talking about the thing he really loves about working with Bear is that anytime Bear's doing these new instruments like this, he pulls in people that's what they do. They know this instrument, right? And he says, hey, show me how to play this, how you would approach this, and he kind of gets on their level and just discusses it with them from that point of view. And Malachi was saying it was really cool because it made you really feel like equals. You're not just there to do a job.
Right.
And that's, again,
an actual full understanding and capability of that instrument.
Right, exactly.
Or style even, too, not just the instrument.
What was your thought when you first heard it and then saw it and then kind of put the two and two together, I don't know, what was your reaction to this sound and the instrument?
Well, the sound, I mean, to me, I'm drawn to those kinds of sounds anyway in a lot of different genres of music. So already, like, immediately it was captivating to me, like, perked up my ear a little bit, you know, piqued my interest. It literally
feels like it's pulling your ear.
It does, by like a thread.
Yes.
You know, like pulling your head with it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it was really captivating, and I was instantly curious about where it and the story was going to go.
Yeah.
And the instrument, once I saw it, it definitely fit what I would have imagined kind of made that sound.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about the bow and the manipulation of the strings and how it's not like fully fretted, you know, in a typical or common way.
Right.
You know.
Let's move on to the second instrument, which is the blaster beam.
These percussive rhythms built out of sounds that come from that world. But I knew I needed something more textural. I wanted the score to make us feel like we were buried underground. That's what the blaster beam brought to my score. It had this subterranean quality. The bass frequencies are just out of control. I actually never realized how incredibly useful it would end up being. The instrument ended up in every single cue in the film, and to me is one of the defining sounds of the score.
Blaster beam, that is so awesome. How did I not know that there's an instrument that exists called blaster beam?
Why has Glitch Mob not made this a part of their show at some point?
Like, hello.
That would be an awesome
or Star
fun element. Yeah,
you
know?
That too. Yes.
Speaking of which, so where this, I want to hear what the Magic Wiki Box has to say about it.
About the blaster beam?
Yeah.
Is a concept electric musical instrument consisting of a 12 to 18 foot long metal beam strung with numerous tense wires under which are mounted electric guitar pickups, which can be moved along the beam to alter the sound produced.
Right. So where on that vibration wave,
right,
you can move that around. So it's picking up, it's literally like going into a synthesizer and changing,
It's like a manual synthesizer.
Yeah, right.
So basically it says it's played by striking or plucking the strings with fingers, sticks, pipes, or even large objects such as artillery shell casings. That's a very specific explanation.
Yeah, so you can use a pick, you can use your fingers.
Just go in the backyard and get go get your artillery shell from the backyard.
Yeah. Kids, don't forget your artillery shells. We're going to see the blaster beam. So it said concept. So where did the concept come from?
Let's see.
Why does it exist?
Okay. All right. The blaster beam was designed by John Lazelle in the early 70s and was first widely used by Francisco Lupica, who built several out of iron. Let's see. So apparently...
How did it go from that to Hollywood?
Well, hold on. I'm about to get there. American child actor turned musician Craig Huxley created his own refined version of the beam out of aluminum, which was brought to fame in the soundtrack for Star Trek, the motion picture, 1979.
Oh, yes.
Composer Jerry Goldsmith.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. I knew it would as soon as
that had some... okay, so that was that instrument, because it had these these big sounds that was basically if I remember, it's been a while, because... I'm going to stop myself right there and spare you of my incorrect ramblings. Essentially, it involves a lost space probe trying to return to its creator, aka Earth, or later, Captain Kirk. Enterprise intercepts and saves the day, of course. But the cool thing was this use of the blaster beam for the sounds of this space probe called Voyager, short for Voyager, which really gave it this otherworldly feeling.
The machines interpreted it literally. They built this entire vessel so that Voyager could actually fulfill its programming.
And speaking of Star Trek, the original series and the power of sound, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the awe I have at how simple sounds and soundscapes can instantly transport you back to specific memories when they literally helped create a moment in your history. The warm coziness of a kid on his couch, dozing as his mom cooked dinner, and occasionally something would pull his ear back to those comforting sounds of Star Trek. And now, back to the blaster beam.
VGER. Feature.
Star Wars
Feature.
Episode 2.
It was in that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Maybe it
For the
wasn't sound for that
seismic
then.
charge sound used by Jango Fett in Star Wars Episode 2.
Oh, that's part of the seismic charge?
Seismic charges.
Yes! That's one of my favorite Star Wars sounds ever. It's a really cool... I'll patch it in. So there's a podcast... If there's any Star Wars fans out there that would like to listen to a Star Wars-based podcast, I highly recommend one called Force Center with these guys, Joseph Scrimshaw.
It's pretty
and-
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ken Knapsack. And it's really good. Check it out. But Ken always talks about the seismic charge being one of his favorite sounds, and I'm always like, yes, because that's some of the cool things about Star Wars is they always have the coolest sound
interesting
design.
sounds, man.
Ben Burt, man, he was a genius. Anyway, so okay,
So the blaster
cool.
beam, yeah. So we've heard
Blaster
it
beam.
many times before since the 70s.
Makes sense.
Just wasn't fully aware of it.
Okay,
And it's an onomatopoeia of itself.
it's kind of yeah. It almost seems like more of a blaster bomb,
Yeah.
but I see why they
funny.
call it blaster beam.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a listen.
Yes, let's do. I'm excited about this.
You want to go ahead and roll into a blaster beam one, or you want to start with the Yayli Tanbur?
Let's roll into the Yayli and then into the blaster beam.
Let's do it. All right. So this is we're gonna check out. This is actually how the movie starts. 10 Cloverfield Lane. This
Yeah.
track's called Michelle.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
Sounds so curious.
It does immediately. And it kind of reminds me of the Curious of, speaking of Steven Spielberg, like the 80s kind of like, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yep. Curious
Hear
and
it
like,
bend
what's
at
going
the
on?
end?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. A little arpeggio strings in the background.
The drone.
Yep. But yeah, same kind of drone approach, right? Yeah, that's awesome. I love that sound. It's really, it tickles the intrigue.
Yes, it definitely does.
All right, well, let's go
I
ahead
love a
and
good intrigue.
yeah, I love it. Let's throw into this blaster beam.
Yeah.
So this track is called Hazmat Suit. That sounds like a super cool synth.
I know. It sounds fuller though, or more
It
depth
does.
or something.
Yeah, because it's got the warmth of the mic and the liveness to it. Or
It's almost like bass strings
are
are on
it's
it
just the pickups, but yeah.
instead of guitar strings.
I know. Definitely. Well, if
Could be.
you're going to... Yeah, it's too low. It has to be. There's those strings coming back in. I love it. Mm-hmm. It's like a mission string. Mm-hmm. Like, because there's several scenes where she's like, has a second to try to figure something out.
Yeah.
That's super cool, blaster beam.
Yeah.
Especially with that little string line. Then bring it down an octave. All right, getting it going. Yeah. That's a really nice sound.
Yeah. It's fun.
It's a really good sound. All right. Well,
It has a totally different type of vibration than just a synth
it does.
sound.
Totally. That's a really cool one. We'll finish this section up with just a little taste of the title track. very speaking. I didn't realize that really at the time when I was joking about the '80s, directors and some of those references.
Yeah.
But with the Star Trek blaster beam instrument thrown in there, and then that string pattern just feels so curious. Elmer Bernstein to me. Like
it's funny how you can hear and feel and
the influences.
Yeah. The different.
So let's do our check here. I mean, this one definitely started with that one sound, unique sound, get the audience's attention, get their interest up. Pulled that unconventional instrument in again. It was really beautiful. You pointed out the drone kind of feeling, even though this one, the blaster beam, almost kind of was the drone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he said he uses it almost every cue in the movie.
But produce the same type of effect.
Yeah.
Just layered.
Yep.
Differently.
And then the final one, the bee theory. Well, this one's all over the place. Blaster beam. Got 2 B's there. Malachi Bandy. Cool.
Yeah.